Alien girl abandoned by her family for being a burden. Only a human gave her a second chance, the scorching twin suns. Beat down mercilessly on the outskirts of Navarra, a dilapidated alien settlement. On the frontier planet of Elysium 9, the city's weathered structures rose like jagged teeth against the dusty horizon, their once gleaming surfaces now dulled by years of neglect and harsh. Elements Jason Steele wiped sweat from his brow as he trudged along the settlement's perimeter, his broad shoulders and muscular arms glistened beneath the unforgiving light, partially exposed by his battle-worn combat armor. The metal plating across his chest bore the scars of countless engagements, each dent and scratch a testament to his years as a Terran Marine Corps veteran. Goddamn heat, he muttered, adjusting the supply pack slung across his back. His mission was simple: scout the abandoned mining outpost beyond the settlement's edge for salvageable tech before returning to the human embassy. Standard procedure for maintaining human interest in this sector. As he rounded a cluster of derelict structures, something caught his eye, a flash of movement where there should have been none. Training kicked in immediately. His hand dropped to the pulse pistol at his hip as he crouched low, scanning for threats. What he found instead made his breath catch. Huddled in the shadow of a crumbling wall was a young Navaran female, her violet skin normally luminous. Among her kind appeared dull and marred with bruises. Long black hair fell in tangled waves over her slender shoulders, partially obscuring her face. Her clothing, a tattered beige tank top and truffanied shorts, hung loosely on her thin frame. Most striking was the ancient, rusted wheelchair to which she was bound, its mechanisms clearly failing. When she sensed his presence, she looked up with evident effort, her eyes large, almond-shaped and filled with a desperation that transcended species. Locked with his. Something in that gait struck Jason to his core. "What the hell happened to you?" he asked, holstering his weapon and approaching cautiously. She flinched at his movement, but held her ground, unable to flee even if she wanted to. When she spoke, her voice emerged as a rasp in the universal trade language. "Family left. Burden." She gestured weakly to her immobile legs. "Accident in mines, no use." Now Jason felt something cold settle in his gut. He'd seen plenty of ugliness across the galaxy: war, famine, the casual cruelty of sentient beings toward one another, but abandonment of the vulnerable struck a particular nerve. "They just left you here to die." The incredulity in his voice was matched only by his rising anger. She nodded once, her expression a mixture of resignation and lingering disbelief at her own fate. Jason stood to his full height, towering over her slight form. The decision formed in his mind before he even consciously considered it. It wasn't protocol, it wasn't his mission, but some things transcended duty and regulation. "Humans don't leave their own behind," he stated firmly, his voice carrying the weight of conviction. "And I won't leave you here alone." Without waiting for a response, he moved behind her wheelchair. "What's your name?" "Lista," she answered, surprise evident in her voice. "I'm Jason Steele." He began pushing her chair toward the settlement. "And you're coming with me." As they moved away from the desolate outskirts, neither could have possibly known that this simple act of compassion would set in motion events that would alter not only their individual fates, but potentially the course of interstellar relations. Forever. Jason's quarters in the human diplomatic compound were Spartan at best. A single room with basic amenities befitting a military consultant, assigned to a backwater outpost. The space felt even more cramped, with Lista's wheelchair taking up precious floor area. "It's not much," he said, setting down his pack and removing his armored chest plate with a grunt of relief. "But it's secure and has clean water." Lista's eyes darted around the room, taking in every detail, as if memorizing escape routes. "A habit of the perpetually vulnerable." "Why?" she finally asked, her voice stronger now that she'd had water during their journey back. Jason paused in the middle of storing his armor. "Why what? Why bring me here? Narans, not friends to humans." He shrugged his powerful shoulders. "Doesn't matter what species you are, nobody deserves to be abandoned like garbage." Moving to a storage unit, he pulled out a medkit and approached her. "May I?" he asked, gesturing to her visible injuries. After a hesitant nod, he began cleaning the cuts and abrasions on her arms with practiced efficiency, his large hands capable of tremendous violence that now moved with surprising gentleness. "You were military," she observed watching his methodical movements, still technically. Terran Marine Corps 42nd Expeditionary. Unit now I'm what they'll call a diplomatic security consultant. His mouth quirked in a half-smile, fancy. Title for a glorified bodyguard, and they allow you to bring strange aliens to your quarters. Jason chuckled what they don't know won't hurt them. Besides, I've got some leave coming. Consider yourself my personal refugee project, as he worked. Lista studied him more carefully. Human males were rare on Elysium 9 especially. Ones with his evident physical prowess. Most Narans viewed humans as dangerous upstarts in the galactic community too. Aggressive too, unpredictable, yet here was one tending to her wounds with unexpected care. Your family, Jason said, breaking the silence. They just left you because of your legs. Lista's expression darkened near society. Values contribution after mining accident crushed my spine. I became she. Search for the right word. Liability resource. Drain. That's barbaric. Jason muttered is practical. She countered without conviction. Resource is scarce here. Always been this way. Well, it's not my way. He finished bandaging a particularly nasty cut on her forearm. Tomorrow I'll see about getting you proper medical attention. The embassy has facilities. Know the force of her objection. Surprise them both. Embassy means officials. Officials mean questions. Questions lead to my clan. They will not welcome interference. Jason frowned. They abandoned you to die. I'd say they forfeited any say in what happens to you now. You don't understand clan politics. Complex if official human intervention. She shook her head vehemently. Would cause diplomatic incident. Fine, he conceded after a moment. No officials for now, but you need better care than I can provide with a basic medkit list. Shoulders relaxed slightly. Thank you. As night fell, Jason improvised a sleeping area for himself on the floor, insisting Lista take the narrow bed. Despite her protests, he was immovable on this point. Get some rest, he said, settling onto his makeshift bedroll. Tomorrow we'll figure out next steps. In the darkness, Lista's voice came soft and uncertain. Jason, yeah, why really did you help me? Truth, he was silent for so long she thought he might have fallen asleep. Finally, he spoke, his voice low and rough with memory. When I was a kid, there was a girl in my colony. Accident left her paralyzed. Instead of helping people, just stopped seeing her. Like she became invisible. He paused. Always promised myself I'd never be that person, the one who walks past. The simple honesty in his words hung in the air between them. Thank you, she whispered again, the words carrying a weight beyond their simplicity. Neither spoke again, but both lay awake long into the night, contemplating the strange twist of fate that had brought them together, and wondering what the coming days would bring. The following morning, Jason woke before dawn. His military habits persisting despite years away from active combat. He lay still for a moment, listening to Lista's soft breathing from the bed. In the dim light filtering through the small window, her violet skin took on an almost luminescent quality. He rose quietly and sent a secure message to the one person he trusted with this situation, Dr. Thomas Reyes, an old friend from his unit who now worked at the embassy's medical facility. If anyone could help without asking too many questions, it was Tom. The reply came faster than expected. Your quarters, 800. Bringing portable scanner. Owe me a bottle of Martian whiskey for this. Jason smiled. Some debts were worth incurring. When Listo awoke, he explained his plan. He's discreet and brilliant military doctor who's treated more species than I can name. Lista's expression wavered between hope and apprehension. Your friend will not report me. Tom understands the concept of patient confidentiality better than most. Besides, he owes me for pulling him out of a firefight on Europa. As they waited, Jason prepared a simple breakfast from his rations. He couldn't help noticing how Lista's eyes followed his movements, lingering on his arms and shoulders as he reached for supplies on higher shelves. Your physique, she said suddenly, is unusual among humans. I have observed. Jason nearly choked on his coffee. Spent most of my career in high-gravity environments. The body adapts. It is aesthetically pleasing. She continued, her directness catching him off guard. Naran females appreciate physical strength. Biological imperative. The frankness of her assessment sent unexpected heat through his body. He'd encountered many species in his travels, but none who discussed attraction with such clinical honesty. Well, thanks, he managed, feeling uncharacteristically self-conscious. Where I come from, your coloring would turn heads, not many violet-skinned women on earth. A smile played at the corners of her mouth, the first he'd seen. Is this what humans call flirtation? Well before he could respond, a discreet knock at the door announced Dr. Ray's arrival. Tom was a compact man with shrewd eyes that missed nothing. After brief introductions, he began examining Lista with professional efficiency. Fascinating physiology, he murmured, running a scanner over her spine, similar to human structure but with notable differences. In vertebral density. Lisa watched him wearily. Can you determine extent of damage? That's exactly what I'm doing. Tom studied the readings with intense concentration. The neural pathways aren't severed completely. There's inflammation compressing your spinal equivalent, but the primary structures remain intact. Hope flickered across Lista's features. Meaning, Tom said, looking up from his scanner. With proper treatment, you might walk again. Jason felt his heart leap. What kind of treatment? Regenerate therapy combined with neural stimulation. We've used similar protocols for human spinal injuries. Would need to modify for her physiology, but Tom shrugged. It's doable at Embassy Medical Facility. Lista asked, tension evident in her voice. Tom nodded. That's the catch. Equipment's too specialized to bring here. We need to get you into the facility without raising alarms. I'll handle that part, Jason said firmly. After Tom left with tissue samples to begin adapting the treatment protocol, a charged silence filled the room. The possibility of healing hung between them like an electric current. You would risk your position for this? Lista finally asked. Jason moved to sit beside her on the bed. Some things matter more than regulations. Their proximity felt suddenly intimate in the small room. List's hand moved hesitantly to rest on his forearm, her slender fingers tracing the contours of muscle beneath his skin. In my culture, she said softly, such assistance creates a life, dead the strongest bond possible. That's not why I'm helping you, he replied, his voice rougher than intended. I know her eyes met his, something unspoken passing between them, but it changes how I see you. Nonetheless, the air seemed to thicken around them. Jason became acutely aware of her scent, something like cinnamon and ozone, and the warmth radiating from her violet skin. Jason, she whispered, leaning closer. There is something you should understand about Navarans. When we form connections, they are intense, physical. It is our nature. His pulse quickened. Lista, you don't owe me anything. This is not about debt. She interrupted, her fingers now tracing the line of his jaw. This is about what I desire, what I sense you desire as well. The tension between them had been building since that first moment in the wasteland, an undercurrent beneath their interactions that neither had acknowledged until now. I've never, he began, been with someone not human. A smile played at her lips. Perhaps it is time to expand your experiences, Marine. When their lips finally met, the sensation was unlike anything Jason had known, a tingling heat that spread from the point of contact throughout his body. Her skin against his created a subtle electric current, a physiological reaction between their different species that heightened every sensation. What began as exploration quickly deepened into something more primal, more urgent. Cultural differences fell away, replaced by a universal language of desire that transcended species. Later, as they lay tangled together in the narrow bed, List a trace patterns on his chest. Among my people, this physical joining is considered the first true step of knowing another being. Jason smiled, pulling her closer. Humans have similar ideas, though we usually wait longer than a day. She laughed. Another first time is measured differently when one has been discarded to die. Every moment becomes precious. As dawn broke over the alien landscape outside, they began making plans to smuggle Listo into the medical facility, neither fully comprehending how their impulsive connection would soon be tested by forces beyond their control. Still a word, the gruff voice of Commander Harris cut through the embassy's bustling corridor like a blade. Jason straightened instinctively. Years of military conditioning impossible to shake, sir, he acknowledged, following the commander into a nearby conference room. A barrel-chested man with a perpetual scowl activated the privacy field before turning to face him. Care to explain why you've accessed the medical supply inventory 3 times this week? Jason kept his expression neutral. Restocking my field kits are standard procedure. and doctor raises. Unusual interest in Naren physiology, also standard procedure a cold wait. Settled in Jason's stomach, they'd been careful, or so he thought Tom's always. Had academic interests, he deflected. Harris leaned against the table, eyes narrowed. Cut the crab steel you've been. Acting strange for days, skipping meals, requesting schedule changes, making unauthorized comms on encrypted channels. He paused. Your quarters are being monitored starting tomorrow. Jason's mind raced. They had planned to move Lista to the medical facility in 2 days when security rotations would provide the best window of opportunity. The timeline had just collapsed with. All due respect, sir, surveillance seems excessive for a few medical supplies. This isn't about supplies, it's about the missing Navaran female. Jason fought to keep his expression neutral. Missing female. Local authorities filed a report. Yesterday, apparently, a disabled clan member went missing from their community, given our complicated relationship with the Navaran's embassy. Security wants to ensure no humans are involved. Harris's gaze was penetrating. Know anything about that steel? No, sir, Jason lied smoothly, but I'll keep my eyes open. After a tense dismissal, Jason made his way back to his quarters, mind churning. The situation had just become exponentially more complicated. When he entered his room, he found Lister attempting to stand, gripping the edge of the bed for support, her face contorted with effort, sweat beading on her forehead. What are you doing? He asked. Rushing to her side, testing limits, she gasped, her legs trembling violently. Felt sensation this morning, tingling. Jason helped her back into the wheelchair. That's the neural stimulators. Tom gave you their preliminary treatment, not a cure, but progress, she insisted, her eyes bright with determination. First time in months. Despite his concern about Harris, Jason couldn't help but smile at her tenacity. He brushed a strand of hair from her face, marveling at how quickly she'd come to matter to him. We have a problem, he spread, explaining the conversation with Harris. We need to move you to the medical facility tonight. List's expression grew serious. Your career at risk. Because of me, my career's survived worse. He knelt before her, taking her hands in his. But there's something else you should know. Your clan reported you missing. Her eyes widened. Impossible, they abandoned me. Why would they? Understanding dawn is on her face. Appearances, they cannot admit what they did exactly to the authorities. You're not discarded property, you're a missing person. Lista laughed bitterly. Convenient. Fiction saves face. Jason contacted Tom, who agreed to meet them at the service entrance to the medical facility at midnight. The hours until then stretched interminably, filled with tense preparation and whispered contingency plans. As evening fell, Lista watched Jason checking his pulse pistol. With practice deficiency, you would use that for me, she asked quietly. If necessary, he holstered the weapon, but it won't come to that. She wheeled herself closer to him. Among my people, such protection is offered only to mates or blood. You humans have a broader definition of who deserves protection, he replied, though he knew his feelings for her had rapidly evolved beyond simple humanitarian concern. Last night, she said, her voice dropping to a husky timbre. When our bodies joined, that was not merely physical for me. Jason felt heat rise in his chest at the memory. Their coupling had been intense, almost overwhelming in its sensory experience. Something about her alien physiology had created sensations he'd never known possible for me either, he admitted. Drawing her into his arms, in Navaran culture such joining creates biological changes. She continued, her fingers tracing patterns on his chest. Our bodies adapt to our partners. Adapt. How? Neural pathways aligned, biochemistry. Shifts. Her eyes met his, vulnerable yet directed. Is the beginning of pair bonding. The implications hung between them. This was more than a rescue mission or a casual encounter. Whatever was happening between them was changing them both, perhaps irrevocably. Their lips met again, the electric sensation even stronger than before. Each touch seemed to forge deeper connections, as if their nervous systems were learning to communicate across the species barrier. When they finally broke apart, breathless, Jason pressed his forehead against hers. Whatever happens tonight, we face it together. As midnight approached, they prepared to leave. Jason had mapped a route through the embassy compound that would avoid most security cameras. Lista wore a hooded embassy maintenance uniform. He'd procured her, violet skin concealed as Much as possible, just as they reached the door, Lista gasped, suddenly clutching her abdomen. "What's wrong?" Jason asked. Alarmed, not sure, she panted, her face contorted, pain spreading before his eyes. Faint luminescent patterns began appearing on her skin, tracing what appeared to be her nervous system in glowing blue lines. "Jason," she whispered, fear evident in her voice. "Something is happening to me." He lifted her from the wheelchair, cradling her against his chest as the glowing patterns intensified. No, whatever was occurring, their timeline had just accelerated dramatically. "Hold on," he murmured against her hair. "Just hold on." With Lista trembling in his arms, Jason stepped into the corridor, knowing that turning back was no longer an option. The embassy corridor stretched before them like a labyrinth. Jason moved swiftly but cautiously, Lista's glowing form cradled against his chest, her skin pulsed with azure light, the intricate patterns of her nervous system shimmering beneath the surface like a living star map. "Stay with me," he whispered, feeling her tremble against him. "We're almost there." The light, she gasped, "Can't control it." The luminescence was intensifying, making stealth increasingly impossible. Whatever biological reaction was occurring, it was accelerating rapidly. Jason could feel unusual warmth radiating from her skin, and where their bodies touched, a peculiar tingling sensation spread through his own nervous system. As they rounded a corner toward the service corridor, a security officer stepped directly into their path. The young man's hand immediately dropped to his sidearm. "Halt, security checkpoint." Jason froze, calculating options in his arms. Lista's glow briefly dimmed, as if responding to his tension. The officer's eyes widened as he took in the scene. A senior security consultant carrying a glowing alien female. "Steele, what the hell?" Lieutenant Parker, Jason acknowledged, recognizing the younger officer from training sessions. "This isn't what it looks like." Parker's gaze shifted between them, confusion evident. "Pretty sure it's exactly what it looks like. You're smuggling an alien through restricted areas." His expression softened slightly. "Though I admit the glowing part is new. She needs medical attention," Jason said, deciding truth was his best option. "Emergency situation." Parker hesitated, his training warring with obvious curiosity. "The Navaran authorities are looking for her. There's an all-points bulletin. They abandoned her to die." Jason stated flatly. "Now they want her back to save face." Something in his tone must have registered with Parker, whose posture shifted subtly. The younger man had served in the colonial conflicts before joining embassy security. He understood the moral complexities of Frontier Zone's medical facility. Parker asked quietly. Jason nodded. After a tense moment, Parker made his decision. "You're officially detained for questioning." He gestured with his weapon. "I'm escorting you to medical for preliminary assessment before processing." Relief flooded through Jason. "Understood, Lieutenant." And Steele, Parker added, falling into step beside them. "You owe me a damn good explanation when this is over." As they moved through the corridors, with Parker providing official escort, Lista's condition continued to evolve. The pain seemed to be subsiding, replaced by waves of sensation that made her gasp and clutch at Jason's shirt. "What's happening to me?" she whispered. "Dr. Reed will figure it out," Jason assured her, though his own concern was mounting. When they finally reached the medical facility service entrance, Tom was waiting, his expression shifting from relief to shock as he took in Lista's luminescent state. "Get her inside," he ordered, punching in his access code. "Parker, you're witnessing a classified xenobiological research procedure." "Understood." The lieutenant nodded, taking up position outside the door. "I'll keep watch. You have 20 minutes before I'm required to report in." Inside the treatment room, Tom immediately began scanning Lista as Jason gently placed her on the examination table. "Fascinating," the doctor murmured, studying the readings. "Her neural pathways are regenerating at an accelerated rate. The luminescence appears to be a byproduct of intense cellular activity. Is she in danger?" Jason asked, not releasing her hand. "Quite the opposite." Tom looked up with amazement. "The preliminary treatment, combined with something else, has triggered a healing cascade. Her body is repairing itself." Lista's eyes found Jason's. "The pair bonding," she said softly. "Human biochemistry catalyst." Tom raised an eyebrow. "Pair bonding?" Jason felt heat rise in his face. "We've been Close understanding dawned on the doctor's face. Ah, well, interspecies. Intimacy isn't unprecedented, but this reaction certainly is your biochemistry. Must have introduced elements her system recognized beneficial, so I'm healing her. Jason asked, incredulous in a manner of speaking. Yes, Tom continued monitoring. The readings, the neural stimulators provided the framework, but something in your biochemical exchange accelerated. The process exponentially. Lista's grip on Jason's hand tightened. Can feel my legs tingling. Burning nerve regeneration, Tom confirmed. But at this rate you'll need stabilization. The process is too rapid. It could overwhelm your system. He prepared an injection, explaining. This will modulate the regeneration. Keep it from burning out your neural pathways. As the medication entered her system, the intense glow began to subside. Though faint patterns still traced beneath her skin. Lista's breathing steadied her expression, relaxing. Better, she murmured. A sharp knock at the door interrupted them. Parker's voice came through, tense and urgent. Security. Sweep heading this way, 2 minutes max. Tom cursed under his breath. We need more time. The treatment isn't complete. Options. Jason demanded the isolation chamber. Tom decided, pointing to a sealed room designed for contagion control. It's shielded from standard security scans. Hide there until the sweep passes. They quickly transferred Lista to the chamber, Jason joining her inside while Tom prepared to intercept the security team. As the door sailed, they found themselves in a small, dimly lit space, pressed close together on the narrow medical bed. In the intimate confines, Alice's fading luminescence cast soft blue shadows across their faces. The patterns beneath her skin pulsed in rhythm with her heartbeat, creating an almost hypnotic effect. You're literally my light in the darkness, Jason said softly, attempting humor to ease the tension. She smiled, reaching up to trace the contours of his face. And you are my strength when I had none. The intensity of their connection seemed magnified in the small space. Every point where their bodies touched created that now familiar electric sensation, a current of energy flowing between them. The pair bonding, she explained, sensing his reaction. It grows stronger. Our systems harmonizing. Is that normal for your people with other Navarans? Yes, with humans. She shook her head in wonder. Unprecedented. My body recognizes yours as essential. The implications of her words hung between them. This was no temporary alliance or casual affair. Their bodies were literally transforming to accommodate each other, creating a physiological dependency neither had anticipated. Outside, they could hear muffled voices as the security team questioned Tom. The danger of discovery loomed, yet in their hidden sanctuary, a different kind of tension built between them, an almost irresistible pull that made the risk seem distant and unimportant. If we survive this, Jason whispered against her hair. What happens next? We continue, she replied simply, her fingers intertwining with his. Together, as they waited in their precarious shelter, the luminescent patterns on Lista's skin began to respond to Jason's touch, brightening wherever his fingers traced her arms. Their shared biology was creating something entirely new, a bridge between species that neither science nor diplomacy had ever achieved. They're gone, Tom's voice came through the intercom, relief evident in his tone. Security sweeps cleared this section. The isolation chamber door slid open with a soft hiss. Jason emerged first, then turned to help Lista, only to find her already sitting upright, her legs dangling over the edge of the bed. I can feel them, she whispered, wonder and disbelief mingling in her voice. Truly feel them. Tom rushed forward with a scanner. Remarkable neural pathways are regenerating at unprecedented rates. The luminescence has stabilized into these permanent-looking patterns. Indeed, while the intense glow had subsided, delicate traceries of light remained visible beneath her violet skin, like bioluminescent tattoos mapping her nervous system. Can you move your toes? Tom asked. Lista's face contorted with concentration, slowly visibly her toes curled downward. Holy shit, Jason breathed. Precisely my professional medical assessment as well, Tom quipped, though his expression betrayed genuine amazement. Try standing carefully, I'll support you. With Tom on one side and Jason on the other, Lista slid off the bed. Her legs trembled violently as they took weight for the first time in months. But they held. I'm standing, she said, tears forming in her eyes. Jason, I'm Standing, the joy radiating from her was palpable, her luminescent patterns. Brightening with her emotions, Jason felt his throat tighten with emotion. Their moment of triumph was short-lived. Parker burst through the door, his expression grim. Commander Harris is reviewing security logs. He's identified the anomalous readings from Lista and ordered a full facility search. You've got maybe 20 minutes before they lock this place down completely. Tom cursed. She's not stable enough for transport. The neural regeneration needs at least another hour of monitoring. We don't have an hour, Jason stated flatly. We need 2. Leave now, leave where. Tom demanded. The neutral zone, Jason replied, between human and Neen territories. Neither side has jurisdiction there. Parker nodded reluctantly. It's your best shot. I can get you to the service exit near the vehicle bay. Decisions made rapidly. Tom prepared a portable medical kit while Parker retrieved Jason's gear from a security locker. Lista insisted on trying to walk, though each step was clearly painful. Save your strength, Jason urged, moving to carry her again. No, she said firmly. If I am to escape, I will do so on my own feet, even if they're still learning to work again. The determination in her eyes broke no argument. Instead, Jason supported her with an arm around her waist, her body leaning heavily against his as they followed Parker through the service corridors. The human concept of standing on your own 2 feet is quite literal. I see, she murmured, attempting humor. Despite the pain evident in her voice, stubborn independence is one of our more annoying traits, he replied with a strained smile. I find it admirable, she said, her fingers digging into his shoulder as she forced another step. Your people never accept limitations, neither do you. Apparently at the vehicle bay, Parker directed them to a small transport skimmer. Maintenance uses it for perimeter checks. Not fast, but it'll get you to the neutral zone. As Jason helped Lista into the passenger seat, Tom handed over the medical kit. Instructions are inside. The stabilizers need to be administered every 4 hours. Without them, the regeneration could accelerate out of control. What happens then? Jason asked. Tom's expression was grave. Best case severe pain, worst case neural burnout. Comforting, Jason muttered, securing the kit. Parker handed him a commune. Untrouble, I'll contact you when it's safe to return, if it ever is. Thank you, Jason said, clasping the younger man's shoulder. Both of you, I won't forget this, just don't get caught, Tom replied grimly, or we're all facing court-martial. As they prepared to depart, alarms began blaring throughout the facility. Their time had run out. Go, Parker urged, opening the bay doors. Jason gunned the skimmer's engines, and they shot out into the night behind them. The embassy compound blazed with activated security lights, but ahead lay only darkness and possibility. The skimmer hummed across the barren landscape separating the human embassy from Navarra's outskirts. Lista sat beside him, her luminescent patterns providing soft illumination in the cockpit. Despite the danger, she seemed almost peaceful. You're remarkably calm for someone fleeing both human and Naren authorities, Jason observed. When you've been discarded to die alone, everything after feels like borrowed time, she replied. Besides, I'm not alone anymore. Her hand found his on the control panel, their fingers intertwining. Where they touched, her luminescence brightened, as if responding to his proximity. The neutral zone isn't much, Jason warned, mostly abandoned mining outposts and trader way stations. It has one advantage neither of our territories offers them, she said. What's that? Freedom to be together without judgment. The implications hung between them, a human and Naren, biologically bonded in a way neither species had experienced before. Their relationship violated no official regulations, yet somehow cross boundaries both societies maintain through unspoken rules and prejudices. As they approached the border marker indicating the beginning of the neutral zone, List suddenly gasped, doubling over. What's wrong? Jason asked, alarmed. Sensation overwhelming. She managed her luminescent patterns flaring brightly like fire in my nerves. Jason quickly landed the skimmer beside an abandoned structure, one of many mining outposts dotting the neutral territory. He administered the stabilizer Tom had provided, watching anxiously as Lista's breathing gradually steadied. Better? He asked as her luminescence dimmed to its normal glow. She nodded, then attempted to stand to both there. Surprised, she rose with significantly less difficulty than before. The pain is accelerating the healing. She realized taking experimental steps around the skimmer, though still unsteady her. Movement was markedly improved. They found shelter in the abandoned outpost, a simple structure with basic amenities. Left behind by the mining operation, as Jason secured the perimeter, Lisa explored her newfound mobility each step. More confident than the last when he returned, he found her standing in the center of the room, arms outstretched. Face tilted upward in an expression of pure joy. "I never thought I would stand." "Again," she said, turning to him with eyes bright with emotion. "Never thought I would walk or run or—" Dance. Jason smiled. "I didn't know Navarans danced." "We do," she said, extending her hand to him, though perhaps not like humans as he. Took her hand, her luminescent patterns swirled and brightened, casting ethereal blue light throughout the room, despite the danger pursuing them, despite the uncertainty of their future in that moment. There was only the miracle of her recovery and the undeniable pull between them. "Show me," he whispered, drawing her closer under the light of alien stars. Fugitives from two worlds found their own rhythm, creating something entirely new in the space between their differences. Dawn broke over the neutral zone, painting the desolate landscape in hues of amber and gold. Inside the abandoned mining outpost, Jason awoke to find Lista already up, practicing walking in determined circles around the small space. "Your recovery is remarkable," he observed, watching her movement still cautious but increasingly fluid. She turned to him with a radiant smile, her luminescent patterns pulsing with excitement. "The stabilizer injections are working perfectly each time the pain subsides. I find more control." Jason rose and moved to her side, his hands settling naturally at her waist. The now familiar electric sensation sparked between them, her patterns brightening at his touch. "We should administer another dose soon," he said, concerned by the intensity of her glow. Tom warned about neural burnout soon, she agreed, leaning into him, but first her lips found his. The kiss deepening quickly, their bodies seemed to communicate on a level beyond conscious thought, each touch amplified by their unique biochemical connection. What had begun as rescue and compassion had evolved into something neither could have anticipated, a bond that transcended species barriers. Later, as they shared a simple meal from their limited supplies, the comm unit Parker had given them suddenly activated. "Steele is Harris." The commander's gruff voice filled the small room. "I know you're receiving." "Respond." Jason exchanged an alarmed glance with Lista before cautiously answering. "How did you find this channel?" "Parker's a good man, but a terrible liar. Didn't take much to break him." Harris paused. "I'm in the neutral zone. Coordinates following. Come alone." "That's not happening," Jason replied firmly. "Fine, bring your neon. But come quickly, you're not the only ones looking for her." The transmission ended abruptly, replaced by coordinate data pointing to a location 3 km east. "It's a trap," Lista said immediately. Maybe Jason acknowledged, but Harris isn't known for subtlety. If he wanted to arrest us, he'd have brought a full tactical team. Then what does he want? Only one way to find out. They approached the coordinates cautiously, Jason with pulse pistol drawn, listen, moving with newfound steadiness. Beside him, the location turned out to be another abandoned structure. This one, a former trading post situated on a small rise overlooking the surrounding terrain. Harris stood alone outside, his imposing figure unmistakable even at a distance. He raised his empty hands as they approached. "About time," he called. "We've got company coming." Jason kept his weapon ready. "What kind of company?" "Navaran Hunters, Specialized Retrieval Unit." Harris nodded toward Lista. "Thereafter her, or more specifically, what's happening to her?" List tensed, luminescent ascension. Both men turned to her and questioned. "It's rare among my people," she explained. "A biological evolution that occurs perhaps once in generations. My clan suspected I might carry the genetic markers, which is why they—" her voice faltered. "Why they what?" Jason prompted gently. "Why they arranged the mining accident that paralyzed me." She finished, her luminescence dimming with a painful admission. "It was a test. If I survived and began to transform, I would be valuable. If not, I was disposable." Jason felt cold fury building in his chest. "They deliberately injured you. Their own family member. Clan interests supersede individual welfare," she stated as if reciting a mantra. "It is our way. It's barbaric." Harris interjected Unexpectedly, and it's not the only corruption I've uncovered in my investigation, Jason asked. Sharply, Harris gestured them inside the structure. Once, within, he activated a portable security field that would block the scanning technologies. For the past 6 months, I've been investigating resource theft from human mining operations, he explained. The trail led to certain Navaran clan leaders who have been systematically exploiting their own people and stealing from ours. He produced a data pad showing evidence of the corruption, falsified accident reports, resource allocation discrepancies, and most damning records of discarded Navarans who showed potential for the rare condition Lista had mentioned. They've been experimenting on their own people. Harris continued grimly testing for this luminescent ascension by putting them in life-threatening situations, while those who survive and show signs of transformation are reclaimed for study. The rest are left to die. Lista's expression remained stoic, but her luminescent patterns betrayed her distress, fluctuating wildly beneath her skin. Why tell us this? Jason asked, still suspicious. Because I need evidence that will stand up in both human and near courts, Harris replied, and he nodded. Toward Lista is living proof of their crimes. You want to use her as a witness. Jason realized, stepping protectively closer to her. I want to bring down a corrupt system that's hurting both our peoples. Harris corrected, but we don't have much time. My sources indicate the hunters are less than an hour behind me. As if summoned by his words, a proximity alert beeped on Harris's equipment. He checked the readout, his expression darkening. Make that -3 Naren vessels approaching from the south. Jason moved to the window, spotting the sleek craft on the horizon. How many hunters typically in a retrieval unit? 6 to 8. Lista answered, her voice steady, despite her evident fear. Elite warriors, specially trained in capture techniques. Harris unholstered his weapon. I've got a transport hidden half a kilometer north. If we can reach it, they'll have scanners. Lista interrupted. They can track my luminescence now that it's stabilized, and there's no outrunning them. Jason exchanged a look with Harris. Years of military training, allowing them to communicate silently. The commander nodded, once understanding. Then we don't run, Jason stated, turning to Lista. We make a stand against 8 elite hunters, she asked incredulously, with 2 Terran Marines. Harris added with grim confidence, worse sods than Europa steel. We survived. Europa, Jason replied, a hint of a smile touching his lips, as they quickly prepared defensive positions. Lista watched the 2 humans with growing amazement. Despite being outnumbered and outgunned, they moved with absolute certainty, their coordination seamless. You're not afraid, aren't she? Observed. Jason paused in his preparations. I wouldn't say that, but humans have a saying, courage isn't the absence of fear. It's acting despite it. For a species so young in the galactic community, you possess remarkable wisdom, she said softly. We learn fast, he replied gently, touching her luminescent cheek, especially when we have something worth fighting for. The moment was interrupted by Harris's warning. They're landing. Through the window, they watched 3 vessels touch down in a triangular formation around the structure. Figures in sleek armor emerge, weapons at the ready. Lista of clan. A voice, amplified by external speakers, called out by authority of the clan council. You are commanded to surrender yourself for medical evaluation and clan protection. Harris snorted. That's a fancy way of saying laboratory specimen. Jason turned to Lista, whose luminescence had intensified with stress. This is your choice. We'll fight if that's what you want, but if you'd rather I choose freedom, she interrupted firmly. I choose you. The simple declaration settled over him like a mantle of responsibility and privilege. He nodded once, then turned to Harris. So, Commander, got any brilliant tactical suggestions for taking on 8 elite alien hunters with just 2 humans and limited ammunition? Harris's mouth curved into a predatory smile. As a matter of fact, Steele, I do, and they're not going to know what hit them outside. The hunters began their approach, unaware that within the seemingly defenseless structure they faced something they had never encountered before: humans fighting for someone they loved. Harris's plan was audacious, bordering on insane. Using the mining outpost old communication array, he broadcast an emergency signal on all frequencies, while Jason rigged the perimeter with improvised flash charges. Non-lethal but disorienting. Lista, meanwhile, positioned herself in the center of the structure, her luminescence deliberately amplified by temporarily withholding her stabilizer medication, but they'll be expecting you to hide. Your glow, Harris explained instead. We're making you a beacon the hunters approached with practiced precision. Their formation, designed to leave no escape, roots the leader a tall Navaran with facial markings denoting Heiklin. Status stepped forward, final warning, he called, surrender the ascendant or face retrieval by force. Harris nodded to Jason, who activated the first set of charges. Brilliant flashes erupted around the perimeter momentarily, blinding the hunters, whose vision was adapted to detect subtle luminescent signatures. In their confusion, they failed to notice the approaching vehicles until it was too late. 3 diplomatic transports, bearing the insignia of the human embassy, roared over the ridge flanked by 2 civilian vessels of mixed design. They landed in a protective semicircle behind the structure, and from them emerged a most unexpected sight: Lieutenant Parker, leading a diverse group of beings, humans and aliens of various species, moving with unified purpose. Reinforcements, Harris announced with satisfaction. Right on schedule. Oh. The hunter leader recovered, quickly raising his weapon. This is a clan matter. Interference violates. Save it, Parker interrupted, stepping forward. This isn't just about one Navaran anymore. This is about all of us. Behind him stood at least 20 individuals, humans paired with aliens of different species, including several Norans. Most striking was that many of the non-humans displayed subtle signs of physiological adaptation, similar to Lista's luminescence, though less pronounced. What is this? The hunter demanded. Jason emerged from the structure with Lista beside him, her hand firmly in his. She walked steadily now, her luminescent patterns flowing with calm determination. This, Harris said, addressing the hunter, is evidence of something your clan leaders have been trying to suppress. Cross-species bonding isn't just possible, it's happening throughout the sector. Parker gestured to the group behind him. Every pair you see has experienced some form of physiological adaptation. Through their bond, humans and non-humans changing together, creating something new. A female Nevaran stepped forward, subtle luminescent patterns visible on her skin. Beside her stood a human woman whose eyes had developed the faintest violet hue. I am Tell of Clan Mir, the near announced, declared, burden and discarded. After bonding with my human mate, we are not alone. The hunter leader's composure faltered as he surveyed the group. The Clan Council will not recognize. The Clan Council will face justice. Harris interrupted, activating a data projection. We have evidence of their crimes, deliberate injuries inflicted to test for ascension, potential resource theft, falsified records, testimony from multiple victims. He gestured to the assembled group and witnesses willing to testify before both human and Neuron tribunals. The hunter hesitated, clearly calculating odds that had shifted dramatically against him. Your orders were to retrieve 1 ascendant, Jason pointed out. Were they to retrieve 20 to fight through diplomatic personnel and create an interesses incident? Are your clan leaders worth that price? A tense silence fell over the gathering. Finally, the hunter lowered his weapon. I will report to the council, he stated stiffly. They will decide. They'll decide to negotiate, Harris replied confidently, because the alternative is public exposure of their crimes. As the hunters retreated to their vessels, the tension broke. Parker approached with a broad grin. Told you I'd contact you when it was safe to return, he said to Jason. Never specified how. How did you find all these people? List asked, gazing at the mixed couples with wonder. They found us, Parker explained after Harris figured out what was happening with you too. He had me quietly investigating similar cases. Turns out you're not as unique as we thought. The female Navrantella approached Lista with reverence. Your ascension is the most advanced I've seen. You are fortunate, listed, thinking of all she'd endured to have found a compatible bond during your transformation. Tella clarified, many are not so lucky. As the larger group began sharing experiences, Harris pulled Jason aside. The diplomatic situation is delicate but promising, he explained. Both governments are motivated to avoid scandal. We're negotiating protected status for crossing species pairs with Lista as the key witness against corrupt clan practices. And my career, Jason asked, though he already knew the answer mattered less than the woman now, walking confidently among her newfound peers. Harris's expression softened slightly officially. You're being reassigned as diplomatic liaison to the newly formed Intersize Cultural Exchange. Unofficially, you're being recognized for exposing corruption that threatened human interests, so I'm not court-martialed. Let's call it a lateral promotion, Harris replied with the ghost of a smile later. As the diplomatic transports prepared to return to the embassy with their unusual passengers, Jason found Lista standing, alone gazing at the twin moons, rising over the horizon, having second thoughts. He asked, coming to stand beside her. She turned to him, her luminescence pulsing. Gently about testifying number about us, never it won't be easy, he cautioned. We'll be scrutinized, studied, we'll be pioneers, she corrected, taking his hand. And where their skin touched her, patterns brightened, creating something new between our worlds, from burden to Bridgewer. Jason mused, quite a promotion. I was never truly a burden, she said. Softly, just waiting for someone who could see my value, he drew her into his arms, the now familiar electric sensation flowing between them. I saw more than value, I saw you. Their kiss was witnessed by the assembled couples, a visible manifestation of the connection they all shared in different ways. In that moment, barriers of species and custom seemed insignificant compared to the bonds they had formed 3 months later. The Intersize Cultural Exchange Center opened on the border between human and Envoran territories. Its first official residents were a human marine and his Navaran mate, whose testimony had led to the conviction of 3 clan leaders in revolutionary reforms in Navaran society's treatment of the disabled in their private quarters. Jason watched as Lista practiced a complex dance movement, her fully recovered body moving with grace that took his breath away. Her luminescent patterns had stabilized into permanent, intricate designs that responded to her emotions and to his touch. The human delegation arrives tomorrow, she reminded him, spinning elegantly before settling onto his lap. Are you ready to be a diplomat? As ready as I'll ever be, he replied, his hands finding their natural place at her waist. Though I still think Harris assigned me this role as some form of elaborate punishment, or perhaps she suggested, her fingers tracing the line of his jaw. He recognized that someone who could see value where others saw burden might be exactly what our worlds need as night fell over their new home. Neither fully human nor Nivron, but something uniquely theirs. Jason reflected on the journey that had brought them here, from a chance encounter in the wasteland to becoming symbols of a new kind of relationship between species. What are you thinking? Lista asked, nodding his contemplative expression. That the best second chances don't just change one life, he answered. Drawing her closer, they change everything. Her luminescence brightened with happiness as their lips met. 2 beings from different worlds who had found in each other not just healing, but transformation. Burden no more, but